What's up guys, and welcome to my buffed Sparkle guide. Sparkle is one of the two characters getting buffed in the 4.0 update, and today I'm taking you over everything you do need to know in order to understand and build her, including a kit overview on her new kit, best Lightcones, best Relic sets and Ornaments, the stats for Mainstats and Substats, and then finally some general team building ideas. Before hopping into it, I do want to have a general disclaimer regarding the background footage. This is recorded before the 4.0 update, so the background footage is actually the non-buff Sparkle, as I do not have access to actually show you buffed footage of the Sparkle, so I have to just give you general background footage. So please keep that in mind. Do not use it as a representation of how she would perform when she is buffed. Sparkle's basic attack will deal quantum damage based off her attack to a designated enemy. Her skill increases crit damage of a designated ally by 24% of Sparkle's crit damage plus 45% for 2 turns, and at the same time will advance the ally's action by 50%, and Sparkle using it on herself will not trigger the action advance effect. Her ultimate will regenerate 6 skill points for the team. If skill points are to overflow during the recovery, overflowing skill points are recorded up to 10 points, and when an allied character's turn ends, if the team has fewer skill points than the maximum amount you do currently have, Sparkle will consume the recorded value to recover skill points for the team until the limit is reached, then will grant the entire team Cypher. For allied targets with Cypher, the damage boost effect provided by Sparkle's talent will increase by an additional 6% per stack for 3 turns. Her talent, while Sparkle is on the field, additionally increases the max number of skill points by 2. Whenever an allied target consumes 1 skill point, Sparkle gains 1 stack of Figment, with each stack increasing all enemies' damage received by 4%. That lasts for 2 turns and stacks up to 3 times. Her technique grants everyone misdirect for 20 seconds. Characters with misdirect will not be detected by enemies, and entering battle in the misdirect state will recover 3 skill points for the team and regenerate 20 energy for Sparkle. Her A2, using basic attack, additionally regenerates 10 energy. When an allied character who possesses the crit damage boost effect provided by Sparkle's skill consumes any skill points, Sparkle will additionally regenerate an energy. Her A4, if an allied character consumes 3 or more skill points within a single turn, Sparkle's next skill usage will not consume skill points. And her A6 increases attack for all allies by 45%. When an allied character possesses the crit damage boost effect provided by Sparkle's skill, their all-type respen increases by 10%. And for her Eidolons, her E1 increases the attack of allied targets who have Cypher by 40%. When the battle starts or when using skill, increases Sparkle's speed by 15% for 2 turns. Her E2 will make each stack of her talent additionally reduce the enemy target's defense by 10%. Her E4, the ultimate recovers 1 more skill point. The talent additionally increases the max skill points by 1. And her E6 will make the crit damage boost effect provided by the skill additionally increase by an amount equal to 30% of Sparkle's crit damage. When Sparkle uses her skill's crit damage boost effect will apply to all teammates with Cypher. When Sparkle uses her ultimate, any single ally who benefits from her skill's crit damage boost will spread that effect to the teammates with Cypher. For Lightcones, her signature option is still one of her better options to use, providing a 32% increase to crit damage for the wearer. At the start of the battle, the wearer will gain mass for 3 turns. While the wearer has mass, teammates will have their crit rate increased by 10% and crit damage increased by 28%. For every 1 skill point the wearer recovers, including skill points that exceed the limit, they will gain a stack of Radiant Flame. Reaching 4 stacks of Radiant Flame will remove all Radiant Flame stacks and give the wearer mass for 4 turns. So the stat stick to crit damage is going to be good for her skills buff, as it scales off her own crit damage. On top of that, going into the battle applies you a buff called Mass that will give everyone a good amount of crit value, being 10% crit rate and 28% crit damage. So more crit damage, since if you're using her on a team, definitely the main DPS on the team is benefiting from the crit damage, otherwise you wouldn't be using her. So that crit damage is going to be nice, and also provides 10% crit rate, which is going to be good for building that main DPS at the same time, as it might allow you to have a little less error, because it will allow you to have a little more error when building them, so focusing on maybe a bit less crit rate as you get 10% from this light cone. And if you were to take more than 3 turns for clearing battle, which most people will, by then you can easily just refresh the buff by getting the skill points. 1 ultimate proc from Sparkle is going to get all Radiant Flame stacks, and then you will have mass for 4 turns. So it's very easy to keep uptime on this permanently. With this light cone, you always will have this buff, you don't have to worry, which makes it her best in slot option overall, depending on your situation. When pairing her with mainly Archer and also kind of the upcoming character Sparksy, you can very much use Sunday's light cone, which after the wearer uses skill or ultimate on an allied character, the wearer will regenerate 6 energy, and the ability's target receives 1 stack of him for 3 turns, which will stack up to 3 times, and each stack will increase the holder's damage dealt by 15%, and every 2 instances of skill or ultimate the wearer uses on one allied character will recover 1 skill point. So the extra energy you are able to get is going to help you get ultimate quicker, which can help you generate skill points even quicker, which for these skill point extensive characters that want to spam as much as possible, it actually can be a benefit from them. Of course, for characters that are not spamming like that, they are not really going to receive much of a benefit from it, because you probably already will have too many skill points to work with. The damage dealt is also nice. It gives you up to a 45% increase if you do get it to full stacks, but for Sparksy specifically, unfortunately, that doesn't impact correlation damage, but the main damage dealt this Lightcone is being provided with isn't really the benefit of it. It's mainly for the fact that it helps you get energy to get ultimate quicker and smoother, while also giving you up to more skill point gen. So this lets you burn through more skill points for these SP hungry characters. So when paired alongside those two primarily, especially if your Sparksy's E2 where you can consume even more since she gets more turns, this Lightcone is very, very good. The standard Lightcone but the battle isn't over is also fine, increasing the wearer's energy regen rate by 10% and regenerates 1 skill point when the wearer uses their ultimate on an ally character every 2 ultimates. When the wearer uses their skill, the next ally taking action except the wearer will deal 30% more damage for 1 turn. More energy regen rate will allow you to get ultimate more smoother as well, as you will be able to regenerate more total energy. And now every time you use ultimate and then every other time after that, so the first time you use it you get the skill point, the second time you won't, third time you will, fourth time you won't, fifth time you will, so on and so forth. It's just going to be extra skill point generation that you can get a benefit from. Again, you'll mainly only notice that with more SP hungry characters, because even the characters that like to be SP negative but not as much as the ones that consume a bunch, you get so much skill points from regular buff Sparkle now, so it's not really anything crazy. And then with the 30% more damage for the character that acts next, the way you tune Sparkle is to have her at highest speed as she can be, and then the character you are buffing to be base speed. So usually every time you use your skill on that ally character, they will be the next one taking action. So 30% more damage for them. Again, if you are mainly going to be pairing her with Sparksy, who's an upcoming character, the damage buff is not going to do anything as it doesn't impact collation damage, so keep that in mind. But otherwise, it is a strong option to use. Depending on the speed tunings and other action advances of your team, Dance to Stance can be very good, which when the wearer uses their ultimate, all allies' actions are advanced forward by 16%, and at S5, it is 24%. So when you are using this Lightcone, be sure to account for your speed tunings and such, make sure it doesn't mess up anything, and also be sure you're getting an actual benefit from this, because if you use it and you're not really going quicker and it doesn't really accelerate anything, then of course it's not really going to be a Lightcone you want to use. You're better off using anything else in that point. But if it allows you to get something like 3 turns within the first MLC cycle, or at least allow you to attack before an enemy that would usually end up killing you or something, in that case this Lightcone becomes a lot more valuable. So if you are actually getting a benefit from the action advance, again, be sure your tunings and such do apply to that. It becomes very powerful. You can also just use past and future, which when the wearer uses their skill, the next ally taking action except the wearer deals 16% increased damage for 1 turn, and at S5 it is 32%. Solid free option, doesn't provide anything else, just accept extra damage. So using this against any non-elation team, you can just use it if you don't have any of the other options mentioned. It's just the Bronya standard Lightcone, but the last part of the effect only, and then slightly better by 2% if you do have an S5, but it's a free Lightcone, so you probably do. So if you don't have the other options, you can very much use this. And then pairing her alongside a quantum DPS such as Archer, you can use Planetary Rendezvous, which after entering battle, if an ally deals the same damage type as the wearer, damage dealt increases by 12%, and at S5 it's 24%. So just an extra 24% increase to damage for anyone that is quantum, which also will receive even more of a benefit if you're running something like Archer, Sparkle, or Tribby, because Tribby will also get that buff, or even someone like Cypher or Silverwolf, who's commonly ran with Archer teams, they can get the benefit too, so keep that in mind. So alongside a quantum main DPS primarily, and that's really just Archer, you can very much use this Lightcone. For Relic sets, her best install overall is still just 4-piece Relieved Ordeal, with 2-piece increasing speed by 6%. 4-piece when using skill or ultimate on an ally target increases the ability target's crit damage by 18% for 2 turns and stacks up to 2 times. 2-piece allows you to get to speed thresholds a little easier as it does increase speed, and the 4-piece can provide you up to a 36% increase to crit damage for the character you are buffing, which is extremely good, and that can also allow you to build a bit less crit damage or focus a bit less crit damage on Sparkle herself and focus more on speed stats and such, as speed tuning is very important on Sparkle to get high speed thresholds, and she stacks it up very easily, so this also just provides a lot. Very simple yet very effective for the teammate she's ran alongside, making it overall the best install you want to use. You can also use 4-piece Hackerspace, same 2-piece, provides 6% speed, 4-piece when the wearer uses their ultimate on an ally. Speed for all allies will increase by 12% for 1 turn and cannot be stacked. So for this 4-piece, it provides everyone 12% speed. Make sure that's actually benefiting you, because if you're not really getting anything out of it, then it's not really a benefit, is it? A lot of the stronger teams don't really receive a big benefit out of this, but you don't have to just focus it on the DPS themselves, since the DPS themselves are not really going to be focusing on speed anyways. It would be mainly for if it helps you hit any speed thresholds for other supports on the team. So if it actually helps you in that case, you can run this. Otherwise, I would not bother and just farm something else. And for super high speed thresholds and wanting to get multiple turns within a cycle more than usual, you can of course run 4-piece Eagle. 2-piece is useless, doesn't work on her. 4-piece after the wearer uses their ultimate, their action is advanced forward by 25%. Same thing as I mentioned with D2D, make sure it's actually letting you get something out of it, such as achieving another turn in a cycle, or at least acting quicker, whereas an enemy would usually kill you. Because if you're just using it, you get to act a little bit quicker and it doesn't actually change anything. It doesn't give you an extra turn. You're not really acting before an enemy. In that case, you would just be better off getting the buffs of something like Relief Ordeal, wouldn't you? But if you have really high speed tuning, maybe you're running it alongside Von Walk, DDD setups on the team, then it gets more and more valuable as you go. Just be sure you're actually hitting speed thresholds for it to matter, and if you are, then it is very much usable. Past that, it is 2-piece, so you can do 2-piece of one of the speed sets, being Hacker Space, Relieved Ordeal, or Warrior Goddess, and combine that with 2-piece speed of one of the other sets, so just a combination of those for 12% speed, or you can do 2-piece of one of those and 2-piece Wave Strider for 16% crit damage to increase their buff. Those would be your 2-piece options. For Planar Ornaments, you can really use any of the supportive sets. They all work well on her. Most common one is Lushaka for 5% energy regen rate and 12% attack for the character positioned first in the team lineup, so be sure they benefit from attack. If they do, this is the most common one. You can still very much use Keel for 10% effect res, and reaching 30% or higher gives everyone 10% crit damage. And if you're running her on a team, she is definitely going to be a benefit on there by increasing crit damage, so this helps you increase it a little more. Alongside another quantum DPS, you can use Penacony, which provides 5% energy regen rate and 10% damage for everyone that is the same type as the wearer. And even Ageless does work with 12% max HP for survivability, and reaching 120 speed or higher, which is not a problem, gives everyone 8% attack. The most common ones are going to be ones that do increase energy regen rate just because it is important, so Lushaka or Penacony would be your main supportive ones. So if you are running characters that benefit from that, such as any attack scaler, the Lushaka set would be good, and alongside someone like Archer, Penacony can be very good. You can also use Von Walk for 5% energy regen rate and reaching 120 speed or higher. The wearer's action at the beginning of the battle will be advanced forward by 40%. So this can really guarantee you to act first and also hit higher speed thresholds. So if you really need to act first, this can definitely be a set you do run. For the main stats on the relics, for the body, you want to run crit damage. For the feet, you want to run speed. For the orb, you want to run HP percent or defense percent for survivability. And for link grip, you want to run energy regen rate. For the substats, first your priority is going to be speed. Get it as high as possible. The general idea of building Sparkle is to have her at as high speed as possible, and your actual DPS to be base speed. The usual amount for Sparkle is 160.1 or higher for hyperspeed, but if you're able to reach even higher thresholds than that via Age's godlike relics and such, that's going to be great. So really, your goal is 160.1 speed or higher. Past that, focus on any set that has a requirement. The only one really is going to be Broken Keel with 30% effect res, so if you're running Keel, be sure you hit 30% effect res to give everyone 10% crit damage. Past that would just be stack as much crit damage as possible just to get a bigger buff out of her skill, and then followed by that would just be more survivability. So HP percent, defense percent, and even more effect res so you don't get CC'd. So once again, first, speed is your priority. Get as much as possible. You just want to aim for a minimum of 160.1 to reach hyperspeed. Anything more than that is still very much welcomed, and even if you're able to reach something like 200 speed in battle, or at least a high enough speed where something like DDD or Eagle can actually help you hit 3 turns within the first MLC cycle, that's going to be ideal. And then if you're running Broken Keel, be sure you hit 30% effect res. Past that is just as much crit damage as you can stack on her, and then anything past that would just be survivability stats, again HP percent, defense percent, or effect res there too. And then for some general team building ideas, it's really any of the DPS that do benefit from an action advance support such as Sunday or Bronia. You can use Sparkle in that slot as well, but Sparkle, you would have to run her at the hyperspeed build with that DPS in the base speed build. You can't do a -1 setup with her, unfortunately. But the most common example I'm going to use is going to be Archer, just because a lot of people would want to use her with him as they do now, and especially will when she does get buffed. So these would be the foundation. The third slot would usually go to a support or debuffer, so very commonly people would use someone like Cypher. Cypher works fantastic with Archer teams, and so does Silverwolf. So one of these two would be your go-to. I prefer using Cypher, so I'm going to put Cypher there. Last slot would go to your sustain or a support if you're doing sustainless. One of the common supports for Archer is Donning Permanza Terre. You can use anyone that can help you with some form of skill points, such as a really fast Linkshot, really fast Luocha, really fast Gallagher, so on and so forth. But in my case, I'm just going to put Donning. So the team would look like this. And if you're doing sustainless, once again, sub out Donning for another support. There's a few that do work good. You can use Chibi in that slot. You can even use someone like Ruan Mei. Ruan Mei is the one I like using with the Archer team, so the team could look something like this. That's not all though. Again, just running a base speed DPS is plausible. You can do something with a Noxa as well, and then you'd put Saridra on the team, as Saridra usually wants to go with the Noxa. Last slot, sustain. In that case, I'll just put Donning, so the team could also look like something like this. If you don't have Saridra, just sub out for another support such as Robin, or even the 4-star Ting Yun, as the attack buffs are nice. And then if you're running sustainless, you can just replace Donning for another support such as Tribi, Cyrene on this team as well, or for another sustain that you maybe just have
to use or another sustain if dining is taken up, such as Full, Adventure, and so on and so forth. And you could apply the same team knowledge with Anaxa with Finon as well, as Anaxa and Finon's teams are practically identical. So the team could look something like this. It's a very simple formula. You really just do Sparkle as the hyperspeed action advancer, a base speed DPS, so I'm just going to use Akron as an older example here for a slot in. So just put Akron there, so it's going to be her as a support, the DPS themselves at base speed. Third slot can go to another support or a debuffer such as Cypher or Silverwolf. In my case, I'll just use a support. More commonly known one is just going to be Tribute, and then last slot would go to your sustain, or if you're doing sustainless, you would sub out the sustain for another buffer or debuffer. And then just to have this in for specific team building when you are building with Elation teams, just because people will probably wonder when this video comes out, and especially when the 4.0 update comes out and Sparksy comes out, the team with Sparkle and then the whole Elation team for now is going to be Sparkle herself, Yao Guang is going to be the other buffer, and then the DPS of the team is going to be Sparksy. Can't put them here because they're obviously not out. So it'd be Sparkle, then it would be Yao Guang, then it would be Sparksy. The one that you would mainly buff would be Sparksy. Last slot, sustain. In that slot mainly would be Danheng or Huopo. And if you're doing sustain this, in there you would put Tribi or Cypher specifically. And that is the full buff Sparkle 4.0 guide. I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this along with all the types of style content. And see you later. Peace out.